Hello everybody, James from On Type here, and today we're doing an ENTP breakdown, doing a little bit of a different format today, using the whiteboard. Got the drawing tool going, and yeah, we're just gonna kind of see how that works. But yeah, we're doing an ENTP breakdown. We'll kind of break down their cognitive functions, attitudes, interaction style, and temperament, and all of that, and kind of discuss what it means for an ENTP. All right, let's get into it. So in ENTP's ego functions, NE is their first function, it's their hero function. And extroverted intuition, it's really heroic with their predictions. It's really heroic with their ability to see all the different things that could happen, all of the different possibilities. They're really good at knowing what's going to happen in the future. They always look ahead. They can predict consequences for other people. They can say, oh, you're not going to want to do that. You're not going to want to do that. You're going to want to do this. And you often hear them kind of talking like that, talking in a very abstract way in general, very intuitive. They can have gut feelings that things are going to happen next, or someone's going to do something, and they can kind of make their way around the world kind of looking in that direction. They're really focused on their desirability. ENTPs want to be desired by others. They want other people to want them. They want other people to pursue them, to include them in their future, because extroverted intuition, it's all about other people's futures. It's all about the collective future, about the future of the tribe. Like, where are we going? Where are we headed? What are we going to do? What's going to happen to us? And it kind of looks at that way in an extroverted sense. And then we have an ENTP's second function. It's introverted thinking. So this means they're really responsible with their thought process. They're really responsible with the conclusions that they come to logically. They're not just going to think something's true easily. They're going to take some time to think about it, rethink about it, verify it. They're going to think everything through to, like I said, its logical conclusion. They're not just going to accept things. They're not just going to, always listen to someone and immediately believe them. They're going to make sure that they do their own thinking. And this makes ENTPs, have that reputation of being a debater, somebody who's going to tell you what they think all the time. They have that, initiating TI parent, and they're going to make sure responsibly that everybody knows the truth and that they are speaking the truth. And that's really important to thinking parents. And ENTPs are no exception. They really like being argumentative, especially when young. Normally, as they develop and get older and develop their subconscious, they do calm down. They're not as argumentative because they're looking to kind of develop that function a little more. But when they're young, they can be very argumentative, very debating, and that's really fun. I think it's cool to have somebody who always speaks the truth, always trying their best at least to speak the truth, say what they think, say what's on their mind, and then the discussion can happen after that, arguments can happen. But that's a cool feature to be able to kind of do that, be very honest. And this also really makes the ENTPs really genius. They can have really great thought processes, really great conclusions, using their abstraction, using their ability to look towards the future in an abstract way, and just look towards the entire world in kind of an abstract way, see hidden meanings, see hidden patterns, and use that introverted thinking to kind of pick all these things apart and discover the truth. So that's a really cool feature. ENTPs are really good at that. And then we have their extroverted feeling in that child slot. So this means ENTPs, they care about justice, they care about fairness, they care about what's good for other people. They're always trying to make sure that people are happy, give them things for that. ENTPs, FE child means they're really generous. They want to give you a lot of stuff, like give you everything, like buy you all the snacks, all the toys, all the food, just really give in a really pure and innocent way. And they want to make other people happy with that. So they might not always want to be around people who are sad all the time or constantly dealing with negative emotions, unless they really develop in that way. They might just want to kind of be around good vibes, making people happy, making people feel good, giving people stuff, making people laugh, whatever it is, even though that can be more of an extroverted sensing thing. Especially ENTP guys will really enjoy making people laugh just from that kind of perspective, in order to make people feel good, make people happy. And yeah, ENTPs, they want to give, they want to be generous, they don't want to be selfish from an emotional perspective, and they really care about other people. They can be very self-sacrificing, they can give too much, they can not always divvy up evens, who's getting more, who's getting less, because they are a systematic type. And that FE child is really innocent. It's not going to want to be demanding in an emotional sense, so they can be really selfless in their emotional state. However, sometimes FE child, obviously it wants things to be fair and might not always know what's personally good to them as much as it knows what's good to everyone else. So we'll talk about that in a little bit, but this can be a very strong function. It can fight for fairness and equality. That's why you have that kind of ENTP stereotype of them being a justice warrior. That's definitely one thing they can do, especially, like I said, when they're young. And then we have their introverted sensing, kind of in that aspirational slot. So ENTPs are trying to become, eventually they're trying to become the toughest, strongest, you know, most enduring version of themselves, the type of person who can endure any pain, endure any health problems. They can stick it out, they can be tough, loyal, stick there like a rock. And that's what ENTPs really want to be able to do as well. They want to be enduring, they want to be tough. And this kind of has to do with their own fears of having a bad experience, having a health problem, having something traumatic happen to them. They're kind of a fear of someone giving them a traumatic experience and having to remember it in their past. And their kind of aspirational self is able to be tough about this. It's able to process their past. It's able to take care of their needs, take care of their health, take care of what they have to do. And that aspirational version often looks very organized. It looks very steadfast. It looks very, you know, consistent, routined. And they're kind of looking to be an SI user in a way, as they are, but in a more proactive way. And that's kind of where the aspirational aspect of it comes from. But that fearful aspect of it as well can really be fearful of getting stuck in the past, fearful of things that have happened to them before, fearful of their own health, fearful that, you know, their needs aren't going to be met. And that can kind of come out as well if they end up being afraid, you know, what if I don't get enough? They can take too much, or they might be afraid they're just not going to get there sometimes. So this can definitely come up if they're feeling like they're not getting enough. And then we have the shadow functions that kind of are right below the ego functions. And we have introverted intuition in that shadow function. So introverted intuition, it's always looking at its own future. It's looking at what could go wrong in my future. An ENTP has that any hero, right? So the hero function can see all the good things that can happen to other people, all these things that could happen. The world could get better, this could get better, this could change, we're gonna have this in the future, this technology is gonna do this. But they're kind of worried about their own future, their own pursuits. You know, is my future gonna go well? What's gonna happen to me? Am I gonna, you know, succeed? Am I gonna fail? And they can be kind of worried about what's gonna happen to them and what decisions they might make if they make the wrong choice. And this is why ENPs in general, but ENTPs can definitely suffer from this, of feeling a little bit of analysis paralysis with what they want to do in their life. They might see all these possibilities, all these things that could happen. They might even see their own possibilities, all these things they could do, but they might be worried about making the wrong choice, and it might kind of get them stuck without making any choice, because they're worried if they make one choice, they're going to eliminate their other possibilities, they're going to eliminate all these potentials that could happen, all these things that could go right. And so they don't want to, you know, commit. They don't want to have, you know, it can be a little bit of a commitment issue with that NI Nemesis sometimes in that way, where they don't know what to choose as the thing they want to do in their future. But when they kind of develop this function and get older, they can kind of start to learn, get some wisdom, talk to other people, and kind of learn what it is they really want in life. So this is something that can be developed over time, but it can be a struggle, especially when they're younger. And then we have extroverted thinking in the critic slot, and this one can definitely be a killer. It's kind of one of the ways that ENTPs get that debater reputation is, you know, it's very critical about what others think. It assumes other people think the wrong thing. It assumes that people are wrong. And so it can come from that perspective of being the smartest person in the room going, I know what is true because I'm thinking all the time. You don't think as much as I do. You probably thought poorly about this. Let me correct you. Like a parent would correct a child. They can kind of talk down to people in that way because that's the way their mind is ordered. And this can be difficult because they have a really hard time listening to people, learning from people, thinking that other people might know something they don't know. That can be a real struggle for ENTPs. That's like something that like Jordan Peterson says, where he says always assume the other person knows something you don't. That can be really helpful for ENTPs to kind of assume people might know something I don't know yet and learn from them, because when they learn and they listen to other people, ENTPs can access their most ingenious form. But if they shut people out and ignore everybody but themselves, they're not going to be able to learn at a correct pace. So that can be a problem potentially. But TE Critic can also become really good at researching. It can hold itself to a high standard of making sure that they've listened to lots of sources, and when they really focus on this function and develop it, they can start to listen to the other side, and they can listen to people they disagree with, and that is really the most important thing for them to learn. And then we have introverted feeling in that trickster slot, and this makes ENTPs kind of aware of how they feel. It's unaware of their own self-esteem. Do they value themselves correctly? Do they, you know, love themselves? You know, is what they're doing good because they believe it's good, or is it ethical somehow? Like ENTPs really want to find out if what they're doing is ethical because of their FE child, and they don't have enough FI to feel like I know what I'm doing is good. I know it's good. I feel it's morally good. It's the best way to do something. You know, they want to find that ethical kind of justification, that ethical reasoning as well, that it's actually, you know, good for other people, and that it actually helps other people, and that it's good for the tribe, good for the majority. And so FI on its own, it can struggle as an ENTP. They can often not value themselves high enough and put themselves in situations where they're taken advantage of. They cannot be aware enough of what's good for them or what things they should do to make themselves happy. And this can be a struggle for ENTPs if they ignore their own feelings and they end up in situations where they're taken advantage of, or they end up giving too much. And this can be a problem for ENTPs sometimes. But eventually, if they develop their feelings more and they spend time with people with a lot of feelings and they really learn and listen to them, they can start to kind of use their FE to attach to other people's feelings and start to kind of understand emotions on a wider scale, and that can help them develop their own introverted feeling. Then we have extroverted sensing in that demon slot, and this makes ENTPs kind of hateful towards reality, towards how things are and how things have been, what others have done, what others are doing. They can be really hateful because their hero function, it's looking towards the future. It's looking at all these possibilities, all these things that could be done better, and kind of naturally the opposition to that is how they're being done right now. And they can be really frustrated if things are being done in a lazy way, if things aren't moving forward, if things are stagnant, if things are bad in reality, if an injustice has happened to them or their people. SE Demon really hates when bad things have happened to them or others in the past, and it kind of has that perspective. It can be very hateful of that. It can be very hateful of that reality of what's happened to people. And they can try to use that to kind of fuel a better future and say what we had in the past, what we have now, it's terrible, really highlight how bad it is. And you see that happening today with people looking towards the past and highlighting things that, you know, countries, people have done wrong, and then trying to use that to look towards the future and see how things can be done better, how things can improve in the future. And that's kind of one of the ways that function is used. There's many different ways that function is used. I could go on about it for probably like 4 hours, but I'll cut it short and say general hatred of reality. It can be frustrating to deal with reality, to deal with, you know, things that are stopping other people from getting what they want and the general freedom of the tribe. And they can deal with occasional physical outbursts if they don't properly regulate this function, if they're kind of going to that demonic state. All right, so let's move on to the temperament now. So we have ENTPs being an intellectual type. That's their temperament. They're an intellectual. They're generally intellectually / career focused. So this is kind of one way to look at it. You could see it as career focused. You know, there's many different ways. The pursuit of knowledge, you could see it as mastery. There's different ways you could kind of define this focus, but in general, they're focused on knowing the truth about things, you know, reaching the final destination of truth, what is, you know, accurate about something in a current field or career or whatever it may be. And they really want to progress those skills in knowledge. And that's kind of their general temperament. They use this to kind of predict what could change in a technological system, what could change, you know, intellectually, scientifically, and they can kind of understand what lies are being told to the masses, what's true, and they can kind of look towards the future when it comes to how they might change that. And they're very innovative, and they can definitely be a visionary and see a path forward as for the tribe or for others, and in a way that the world could get better and better. They're also independent. They're pragmatic. They want to do things in an independent and pragmatic way. So what that means is if somebody's stopping them from doing something, they're not going to change their mind. They're going to go do it by themselves, or they're going to do it outside of the system. They might be on the edge, the fringe class, so you might say. So this is kind of where ENTPs often find themselves, especially ENTPs who are more on the edge. You know, you might see them as witches that were burned, or people who were on the fringe of society, who are more, you know, hated, and because they speak the truth, and in that way they can be outcast in that perspective if they go in that independent route. But oftentimes they're just going to be independent in general with their pursuits. They're not going to need, you know, permission to do something. They're going to do it if they think it works, and if it works and it's efficient, they're going to just do it anyways. And that can generally kind of be how they act, and it can sometimes upset people if people feel like you need to kind of be working with everybody. You need to kind of do what everybody thinks is the right thing to do in this situation and not go outside of that affiliative. but ENTPs can do that anyways, and they can kind of use that to innovate, to do new things, to say things other people won't say, to do things other people won't do, to change things other people won't change, and to fight for things that other people won't fight for. So ENTPs can definitely use this to kind of use all their functions to their best abilities. And then we have an ENTP's interaction style. So ENTPs are informative. They like to give a lot of additional context, a lot of additional info when they talk. They're very verbose. They like to say a lot. They kind of let you know the whole picture. They paint the entire picture. They don't leave anything out. They don't just focus on these specific points, but they're going to give the additional points to let you understand those points even better. So they really they flesh everything out. They really give you the full picture when they're telling you things. They're also an initiating type, so they have a strong external world. They really have those extroverted functions and optimistic slots in their child and hero slot, and they can really enjoy initiating, finding out how people feel, finding out what people want, what people would do, you know, and including other people in that. So they can really enjoy having this kind of external social world. They're also progression types, so they want movement in their life. They like progress. They like to know that things are going somewhere, that things are getting better and progressing. And that kind of has to do with the fact that they're a starter type in general. That's kind of the combination of these three elements. They look to start new things. They can struggle with fizzling out if they kind of start something, they get excited about it, they get people involved, they progress it, they get it going, and then nobody's kind of helping them keep going, and they can kind of fizzle out. It can be hard to keep it going long term, because they can be a little bit more pessimistic about what happens down the line. So being a starter type, you can definitely, you know, ENTPs might have an easy time, you know, finding something they want to do, starting it, getting everything they need, getting all the supplies, all the tools, getting everything set up, getting a little bit done, and then it can be a kind of a struggle after that, because you just might lose energy, and this can be something that ENTPs can struggle with. So yeah, so that's kind of the interaction style of an ENTP. If you guys want to know more about ENTPs, have me go into any of these traits or elements in more depth, I'd be happy to do so. If you want to read a little bit more about ENTPs, we do have the handbook on ontype.ca, and we're going to be coming out with more educational content in the future and another advanced guide. So stay tuned for that, and thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great day.